Hey guys, welcome back. Today, we're going to dive into a framework that has pretty much become the standard for how startups tackle new business opportunities. Now, for some of you, this might be totally new. For others, maybe you've heard the term lean startup thrown around, but you're not 100% sure what it really means.
So, you've got this amazing idea, right? You've thought it through, and in your head, it sounds like a surefire hit, a guaranteed success. But what if I told you that almost every great-sounding idea has a huge, fatal flaw hiding right in plain sight?
And yep, there it is. That's the hard truth. Our most brilliant ideas are almost always built on a shaky foundation of assumptions, just a bunch of guesses we haven't actually tested. This is the exact problem that the Lean Startup Framework was created to solve.
Okay, that sounds a little harsh, I know. But the core of this whole framework, created by a guy named Eric Ries, is built around this one tough concept. It forces us to admit that we don't actually know if our idea is any good. All we really have is a set of unproven assumptions based on, well, pretty much nothing. You know, this whole approach was a total game changer. Before the lean startup came along, the process was completely different. You just write a massive business plan, go raise a ton of money, build your thing in secret, and then hope for the best. This framework, though, it introduced a much more scientific, validated path forward.
So let's actually look at just how different this new path is. We're going to do a side-by-side comparison of the old-school, high-risk approach versus this modern, leaner, and frankly, smarter alternative. Look at that column on the left, the old way. It's a waterfall of hope, right? Spend months, maybe even years, burn through a ton of cash, all before a single real customer has even seen what you're building. It's a massive gamble. Now, the lean way on the right is the complete opposite. It's all about doing the absolute minimum amount of work needed to see if customers will actually use your product, and then immediately taking that feedback and plugging it right back into the process.
At the very heart of this entire framework is one simple but incredibly powerful idea. It's a feedback loop that really acts as the engine for turning all those initial guesses into a successful, real-world product.
And this is it, the build, measure, learn loop. It's a continuous cycle. First, you build a tiny, minimum version of your product. Then, you measure its success. You see how real customers interact with it, what they like, what they ignore. And finally, you take all that data and you learn. You figure out what you got right, what you got wrong, and you go right back to the beginning to restart the process. It's really just a system for running super fast experiments to get real-world answers.
Okay, so we've got the engine, that build, measure, learn loop. Now let's open up the toolkit and look at the essential vocabulary you need to actually put that engine to work. Once you get these core concepts, you'll be able to hold your own in any conversation about building a business the lean way.
First up is the hypothesis. This is where the lean startup gets really scientific. Instead of just having an idea, you have to create a hypothesis. It's a testable statement that boils your idea down, and most importantly, it forces you to state the core assumptions you need to prove.
Let's use a super simple example. Say your big idea is to start a business that sells custom t-shirts. Pretty straightforward, right?
Now, this is where the magic happens. We transform that simple idea into something way more powerful. It's not just, I'll sell t-shirts anymore. The hypothesis is, people are willing to pay more for custom t-shirts to get a specific benefit. See what happened? We just built two clear, testable assumptions right into the idea. Now we have something we can actually go out and prove or disprove. And the entire goal of testing that hypothesis is to get what's called validated learning. This is the golden ticket. This isn't information from some focus group or just your own gut feeling. It's proven knowledge because it came directly from a real experiment with your actual customers. It's true because they showed you it's true with their actions.
So what happens when your validated learning tells you that your big hypothesis was, well, wrong? That's when you pivot. And a pivot isn't just a tiny change. It's a big, structured course correction. It's what you do when you realize your fundamental idea isn't working and you have to make a major shift in your strategy.
And if you want a perfect example of a powerful pivot, look no further than this. A lot of famous companies started as something totally different. Twitter actually began as a podcasting platform called Audio. They realized it wasn't taking off, and based on what they learned, they pivoted to a microblogging service. And well, the rest is history.
This last tool in the kit is absolutely crucial. It's your minimum criteria for success. Before you even run your experiment, you define exactly what success looks like. You set the rules of the game ahead of time. This keeps you honest and stops you from moving the goalposts later just because you want the idea to be true.
So we've talked about the loop and the toolkit.
But let's zoom out for a second and talk about the real-world impact of all this. Why go through all this trouble? What's the real payoff here?
Honestly, it all boils down to this. The entire framework is designed to prevent the #1 cause of startup failure, building something that nobody actually wants. It forces you to ask that hard question. Why spend months of your life and potentially millions of dollars on something if you don't even know if people will use it?
And here's the bottom line, the big payoff. When you use this method, you figure out way sooner if you're on the right track. That saves you a massive amount of time and money, it lets you adapt much faster to what the market is really telling you, and ultimately, it gives you a systematic way to seriously increase your odds of building a successful, popular product.
So I'm going to leave you with a question. Think about your own business idea, or a project at work, or even just a personal goal you have. What is the single biggest, most unproven assumption that your entire plan rests on? And what's the quickest, cheapest, smallest thing you could do, like right now, to go out and test it? That's your first step on the lean path.